Welcome back to your next episode, the Midlife Podcast, where sometimes we talk to experts and also to interesting people about their experiences of midlife. We're recording today 1 week into the coronavirus lockdown in March 2020, and so we're in 3 different locations recording remotely. I'm in the studio, Amy's at home. Hello, Amy.
Hey, Louise.
Hello. And our guest, Rich Wilson, is also at home. Hi, Rich.
Hiya, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. Thank you for being on. Rich is an award-winning comedian and host of an award-winning podcast too, in which he talks to funny and interesting people about men's mental health, and it's called Insane in the Men Brain. And the reason we've been wanting to get him on for ages is because Insane in the Men Brain is so relevant to many of our listeners. So Rich is a middle-aged guy, obviously a very funny one too, and he's experienced mental health issues himself, which we'll come on to. But there are a few reasons why I think, personally, his podcast is so popular. First of all, it's his persona. When people hear him, and also when they meet him in real life, which I have a couple of times, they instinctively know that he's a genuine, warm, caring person. His list of guests on Insane in the Men Brain is really impressive, and they all open up to him so honestly about really personal, emotional topics. And he's had people on like David Baddiel, Beckett, James Acaster, and many more. Rich sounds like most blokes' mates that they meet in the pub, and he's described himself as a working class geezer, and there aren't many voices like his discussing mental health, talking about dark feelings, about crying, about emotions. Rich and the podcast are unique. So Rich, can we start with asking you why you decided to start this podcast?
I'd gone through sort of a self thing. I'd gone on I'd had a lot of problems in my life, and then I realised a lot of them were self-inflicted. So I went off and I had some counselling, and because I kept relationships was where I was having the problem. All my relationships kept like breaking down, and I just thought, why is this happening? Why does this keep happening? And to start with, you're always blaming other people. So I had counselling, and I suddenly realised, oh no, it's me. Okay, why am I doing this to myself then? So it sort of came from that, and then talking to people in green rooms at gigs, and I started to realise that more and more people had a similar sort of thing going on. So I just thought this would be a really nice idea for a podcast, and the amount of messages I get from other men going, I've gone through the same thing, mate, and I thought I was the only one, and so it sort of stems from that.
Right. So you're not an expert at all, and you make that very clear. And there is an absolute need for experts, but as a springboard for men to start considering their emotional well-being, and I think probably for many people, and I'm a big generalisation here, but I think also for men, perhaps they need that green light, almost permission to do that, and that's really a really vital thing, is to start that conversation, for people, or for people to listen to a podcast like yours, where that might actually get them considering whether or not they need counselling or medical help.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. I found myself in the same position. If it's somebody that I like, and they turn around and say, like, for want of a better phrase, they give you permission to go and sort yourselves out. That's, I respond to that. And so I think many people do, especially someone that sounds like me, when you turn around and say, look, I was crying my eyes out the other day and I don't know why. So I've gone to talk to someone. And they're like, really? Yeah. This is what I did. And they go, and 9 times out of 10, they'll go, do you know what I did? I was in the car the other day and a song came on and I had to pull over. I just couldn't help myself. And you're like, it's all part of being a human being, but we're not taught this when we grow up.
But this podcast feels like a real passion of yours, a real sort of vocation, I suppose, to help other people, because of your experience.
Well, I've always, because I used to do care work. I was training to be. I worked in old people's homes, and I've looked after mentally and physically disabled children. So I've always cared about other people, and now with the comedy and with that care work, it's all serendipitous. It's all kind of merged together, and now it's come out as this podcast, and so it seems like it was always meant to be.
Yeah.
Especially when the way things are now, even more so now. I always say to people, look, just message me in amongst all this crap that's going on. Now more than ever, we need to be opening up and talking to each other. So I love doing it, and I love being there for people. And so, it really does fire me up.
Yeah. You had a really low point a couple of years ago, didn't you? Can you tell us about that?
I did, yes. I was married for a bit, and she was a wonderful person. And it was another relationship that had gone down into gone into the dust, and after that. There was a bit of time where I thought about ending it all and just thought, what's the point? I'm not, I started to feel that there was no point in me being here.
Right.
I felt like my children didn't need me anymore because they were grown up.
Yeah.
I'd ruined another relationship, and I just felt there was a lot of self-loathing and just like, what's the point in this? Why am I here? I genuinely thought I would be better off if I wasn't around.
Right.
And it's only through talking to people and actually talking to loved ones as well. That was actually saying to them, look, this is how I'm feeling. And then them turning around and going, well, don't feel that way. That's ridiculous. We love you, and this is why. And communication is so key for human beings to get through anything. Communication is so important.
Yeah, so you were able to talk to people about your feelings. Is that just like that's perhaps just part of the sort of person you are, that you're comfortable to do that?
Yeah, I think so. I think comedy helped me be, because I'm fundamentally a shy person. Growing up, I was crippled with shyness. Even now, it takes me days to send an email because the fear of rejection is it just hangs over me so much. So I do have to battle that still, but comedy has helped me with that. Gigging, standing in front of people, hundreds of people, making them laugh will really, sort your confidence out. But that's it. I totally get it. Some men are so, like my dad. He's a wonderful man, but he's so crippled with fear and shyness, and it comes out sometimes in anger and frustration because he doesn't know how to deal with it. And that's the same with a lot of men. Instead of turning around and being calm and saying, look, I'm really struggling with what is perceived to be a man. They see it as being weak. And that's a real shame.
Yeah, I was just going to say, actually, I was thinking as you were talking about my own dad and his dad, and I guess it's quite cyclical, isn't it? If you don't see your dad opening up and communicating and reaching out, you just see him sort of, stiff upper lip and soldiering on and carrying on, then you think as a little boy that's what you're supposed to do. So I guess it is breaking that cycle a bit, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And because you look at your parents and you go, well, you trusted them. You're like, they were your parents, or you trusted all grown-ups when you were growing up. Like, they're the grown-ups, they know what they're doing. But when you become a grown-up and then maybe you become a parent yourself, you suddenly go, oh no, they were winging it. They were just going by. Yeah. They were trying to dilute the crap that was put into them by their own parents. Yeah. And by going, actually, we don't want to be like that. We're going to do this. But then the shadow of bad behaviour looms large down the ages, and so generation after generation, you still get that like toxic masculinity and other crap going on, and it takes a lot of work to filter that stuff out. And we're only now getting to a point where men can talk about their feelings, because we've been, especially our generation, Generation X, we've been told you push those feelings down, you don't cry, you be a man, and blah blah blah. And it's really it's hard to work through, But I think we're the first generation that are actually turning around and going, no, we're making the changes. We might not benefit from those changes, but we're the ones starting it, I think. So.
And how old are your boys? They're in their 20s, aren't they?
They're 22 and 28.
Right. So, and have you consciously been different with them about just talking more and
yes.
than your dad was? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, to begin with, I wasn't with my kids. Because I just thought, my dad. My mum and dad, the way they parented was the way to do it. And then after a while, you go, actually, no, that's not quite right. I need to figure this out for myself. And you figure it out. But I remember saying to my lads, it doesn't matter how old we get, we must always hug and we must always tell each other we love each other.
Yeah.
I mean, it got to the point, I used to say to my lads, I was always on about them. I was like, if you're gay, it doesn't matter. You can come and tell me. To the point, they both turned around separately and said, like, Dad, for the last time, we're not gay. Can you stop banging on about it?
Oh, that's funny.
So I went too far the other way.
Yeah.
But it's important. It's important to try and you'll be surprised if you just turn around and just blurt it out. You don't even have to prepare for it. Just go, listen, John,
Yeah.
I'm really struggling with what's happening. You know, and you'll be surprised at most times they'll turn around and go, yeah, do you know what, mate? So am I. And you'll have a chat about it. Maybe it'd be easier now because we're not with each other. Maybe I've definitely seen a change in people I haven't spoken to for a long time. Been messaging out the blue, going, "How's it going? I'm really sorry that I let life get in the way."
Oh.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be some good stuff coming out of what's happening.
There will.
Definitely. It's funny you should say that, Rich, because my husband was saying, and he's been on like calls all week. He works in the city, and he said that one thing has changed is that everyone is starting their calls with, "How are you? How are you? How's your family? How's your head? Are you all right? Okay, now let's try and salvage whatever we're trying to do." But there's some compassion that comes from this.
I think so. I think this is really what's happened has really wiped the playing field, leveled the playing field. I think people are people are starting to realise that what's going on is mad. You know, we've never had to experience anything like this before in our lives, and it's not just one or two people; it's the entire world.
Yeah,
suddenly have gone, oh shit, this is actually quite serious. We need to do something about this, and I think that's bringing people together.
We're actually more connected than we ever thought possible, aren't we? Not only because we can pass this thing to each other, but because we do need to reach out to each other. Yeah, you know, to make sure that we're all okay.
Absolutely, I think now you can really tell who people are at their core when disaster strikes, and the majority of people, there's a percentage of people that are quite selfish and have just gone, I don't give a shit, I'm going to have all the toilet roll and the potatoes and whatever. But the rest of us have actually gone, right, how do we get through this together? How do we bring other people through this that maybe don't have they're not as in as good a position as some of us, you know. We're all, a lot of us, we're reaching out and we're bringing people up and we're making sure everyone's got everything that they need, and it's really bringing people together. Yeah. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
You were talking about suicide before, and I was just, we were looking at the sort of research on this, and in the media over recent years, there's been obviously quite rightly a focus on the suicide rates in young men, but research would suggest that middle-aged men are equally at risk, and the suicide stats for them are sort of sadly rising. So men aged between sort of 45 to 49 are one of the most high-risk groups for suicide, and just for our listeners, that's nearly 4 times that of the women of the same age, which is just crazy, isn't it? Have you noticed any reoccurring themes from the interviews that you've done, and that might, I don't know, maybe connect the dots or explain why that might be?
I think a lot of the time we all want to feel not important, but we want to feel like we're worth something, like do you know what I mean? And I think what happens with middle-aged people is that we get to a point where we actually sort of figured out how the world works. We've figured out people. We've figured out ourselves a lot of the time. You know, we've kind of gone, actually, I'm happy with how I look and who I am, but then society goes, yeah, but you're nearly past it. You're past it now. We don't need you. Yeah. There's a lot of focus on the young. And everybody, and it's like, why is that? We should be focusing on people like us. We're in our prime. We're in the middle of it. We've worked stuff out. We've got to the middle of our lives, and now we're like, right, okay, we've got some things. We've got some information, some knowledge that we can give to people, and we can help other people get to where we are. But we don't. We kind of get pushed to one side and go, no, you're old now. You can just get out of the way, Grandad. We're going to go and talk to the youth, and you're like, but they don't know anything.
No.
I remember when I was a teenager, I was an idiot.
Yeah. They might look good, but they don't know shit.
But it's this obsession. It's this obsession with the young and the youth. And no disrespect to them, but you don't know what you're doing. You think you do, but you don't. And and I say that from experience, having been a youth myself. You know, this society, maybe this will happen now. You know, society needs to change and realise that middle-aged people actually know a lot more about what's going on than we're given credit, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of times men, especially now, roles are changing. You know, when you go back to what the fundamentals of being a human, you know, you had the men went out and they grabbed the food, and then they came back, and then women would sort out the house and things like that. And I'm talking way back, like cavemen times or whenever it was, you know. And now roles have changed. Women go out and they find the food, and they have to bring it back, and so. But we're still fighting those animal instincts, I feel, you know? And so men have now got to get to a point where they go, actually, no, things are level. Basically, human beings are animals. And men, and I'm sorry to say this, men are beasts. And we will either eat it. If we can't eat it, we'll try and have sex with it. If we can't have sex with it, then we'll just push it to one side or we'll kill it. And that's fun. That's what's in men. That's why most sex offenders are men. You know, that's how it feels anyway. And so, and I think men have to accept that. They go, do you know what? All men are fighting those urges. All men. And I'm not saying that all men are sex offenders and all men are this or all men are that. I'm just saying that all men are animals, and we are fighting those urges all the time. And because we're some people are more civilized than others, and some people have a conscience and they have empathy and things like that, then we don't act on those impulses. You know, when you see someone that you're attracted to, you don't just grab them and drag them into a bush. You know, you actually go, oh no, actually, why don't you say hello to her? You know. But there are other men like Weinstein that gets a bit of power and his ego kicks in, and then he's like, right, well, I'm the king of the castle. I'll just grab and fuck wherever I want. No, I'm sorry if that's swearing. But
prime example, yeah.
Exactly. So, and that's the difference. So all men are animals. Women seem to be a bit more subtle than men. Women have more of a nurturing thing. I mean, I'm probably being hugely sexist by saying all of this, but it just seems to be
women are a lot more manipulative, aren't they?
Oh,
you know,
God,
I mean, there will be maybe not the Weinstein equivalent.
The word's clever, but isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I think because physically men are stronger.
Yeah.
Women are mentally stronger. Because women have more to deal with. I mean, you have periods every month. You have to deal with when you know. You are built to you're built to create life, and so you've got all these other different chemicals going around in your body, and all these other different things to deal with. Men really don't have a lot to deal with. We're there when we try and do our best to look after you when you're run down or when you've got your period or when you're pregnant, but really women do it all, you know, and so women are mentally stronger than men, and that's how they get through life is by being mentally stronger and manipulating a little bit more. And whereas men are just animals with hammers, and we just go, we're going to just do this.
So going back to that thing, what you've just been saying about men being basically animals, when you're talking to other men about mental health issues, are they feeling the pressure to be masculine, to be successful, to more? Do you think is that something that comes out a lot?
Absolutely, that's exactly what it is. We're still, it's in us, it's in our core to be stronger, better, higher up than everybody. The king, we're built to be kings, you know, and we're fighting that now, you know, because now society has changed. You know, women can be kings as well, and it's not all about you being stronger. It's about who's the best one for the job, you know, and that's what we're dealing with. That change in society now. And a lot of men are struggling with that because we've been brought up with, I go out, I do the work, I come back, she sorts the house out, she sorts the kids out, you know, and men. I mean, we've been told that from when we were kids that is what it is to be a man. Men
now in their 40s and 50s are still, presumably that would explain a bit of that sort of rise at that sort of age of, you know, there being emotional issues and problems. Younger men, presumably, it is not going to be as bad for them, surely. Would you think? No, I don't think so. I think the changes have already been. We've started making the changes, so the next generation, it'll be diluted again. The generation after that will be diluted again. There's not going to. It's happening, but I think society again expects it to be overnight. You know, it's supposed to be, suddenly we're all supposed to be woke. Suddenly we're all supposed to know all of the pronouns. We're all supposed to know everything overnight. We're not given any time to adjust, and we all need to transition, and it all takes time. But
because of social media as well, we're just in the middle of this barrage of, if you say one thing out of place, then you're kicked out.
To jump on you. I mean, on Twitter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just give me a minute. I've with trans people, for example, so I've just met somebody that my brain has said to me, that is a man, because that's how we've been conditioned. But then that person is telling me that they identify as a woman, and they're wearing women's clothing, and they're doing this, they're doing that, and your brain just has to have a minute to go, right, I've got 48 years of bullshit pumped into my head by other people. I just need a minute just to get my head around what's happening now. I don't want, and because I'm not out to offend anybody. I want us all to get on. And that is why, going back to communication is key. Don't be scared to ask questions. Don't be scared to, when you meet people with different backgrounds and different things going on, you can say to them, okay, I'm going to be honest, this is all new to me. Let's have a chat. Communication is so important, rather than just shooting everybody down.
I think you're right. I think also it's about intent, isn't it?
Yes.
And your intent, it doesn't sound to me, I don't know you personally, but it doesn't sound to me like you are out to, tear anyone down or offend anybody. If anything, you're curious and you just want to learn. So I think that's a really important thing about just communicating, having that, be willing to have that conversation.
Absolutely. Well, that's the thing about the podcast. The podcast it's not about me. It's about the guests that I have on, because I feel that I'm still learning, and that's the other thing as well. There isn't a destination with all this. You are just constantly learning, becoming a better human than you were before, working out your bad bits, your good bits, and then one day you're not here anymore, and that's it. That's all life is. I feel anyway, and so. When I have people on the podcast, I'm curious about that person. I find that person interesting, and I want them to tell me things that that I can learn from. I hear so many podcasts where halfway through them, I'm shouting at the stereo, just, can you shut up and let the guest speak for a minute? It's about them.
So many of our listeners will now will be thinking, yeah, Rich, that's relatable. We're often thinking, Amy, Louise, shut up.
As I said it, I thought, I haven't let these speak for more ages, sorry.
Talking of your sort of vulnerability, last year at the Edinburgh Festival, you sparked a huge online response when you told performers that they should be more honest on social media about your ticket sales and stuff like that. And I guess that does feed into that thing of, particularly men, but I think women are guilty of it as well, of saying everything's great, things are going really well, and this is really popular and everything's selling really well. And you described playing to 2 people and their dog in a 100-seat space, and it was retweeted lots of times. What prompted you to kind of share and be vulnerable like that? Well,
I think over the last couple of years, I've never been called reliable before. I've never been called honest. And I don't mean like lie, but you're not being honest about how I was feeling about things, and which would get me into trouble. Instead of, like, for example, if I was in a relationship and I wasn't feeling it, instead of saying I'm not feeling this, I'd be like, I don't know what to do. And then I'd meet someone else, and then there'd be a bit of an overlap going on, and so you end up telling lies, not because you want to. It's not just on the bedpost or, oh, look at me, I've got 2 people at the same time. It's like, because you don't know how to deal with it. You're not being very honest, and so after having counselling and coming out the other side, actually people say to me, people feel they can rely on me. People say, you're just so open and honest. And that means more to me than any award or any sort of plaudit in the world. So I saw in Edinburgh, people were struggling already. It was like day 2. And Edinburgh, the festival is such a... It will eat you alive if you let it. It's massive. And I just thought, you know what, something needs to be said. I was just a throwaway tweet. I just thought, if 1 or 2 people read it and they get some comfort from it, then so be it. Because no one knows who I am. I'm not Johnny Big Cheese. I'm not Mr. Edinburgh. I'm just a comedian. And I just thought, might be some people that know who I am that might get some comfort from this. And so, I mean, Jade, when I said to Jade, my missus, that I was going to do it, she's like, no, what are you doing? No, don't do that. You just got to keep telling people that everything's fine. And I'm like, well, I feel I want to do this. And it snowballed. It was amazing.
That is kind of encouraging, isn't it? Because I guess, like, from that PR point of view, and obviously Jade is totally right, the thing is sort of like, say it's really busy and then more people come because they think it's really busy. But I guess sometimes it feels like that's not authentic.
It's just fake, and I can't do fake anymore. I can't pretend, And again, funny enough, Jade's one of the most honest people I know. She can't hide any feelings whatsoever. She's very heart on her sleeve, and I'm the same. I don't want to pretend. I don't think it helps anybody. It doesn't help yourself. It doesn't help you, because you got to keep it. You can't keep that shit up. And after, you build this castle's built on sand, isn't it? And after a while, people are it's gonna collapse. And at least if you come from somewhere honest, your foundations are strong. And I think that was where I just wanted to be honest and tell people, look, I'm just as buggered as you are. This is how it's going to be. This is how the festival is. You're going to have a day where you're sold out. You're going to have a day when there's no one there. And it's the same with this, where we're at now with this lockdown. You're going to have days when you're productive. You're going to have days when you're crying. You're going to have days.
Absolutely. That's what I've noticed last week. So up and down. I'm like, one day I'm like, oh, right, I've got a handle on this now. I'm fine. Next day, just spent the day sobbing,
Exactly. And everybody is in exactly the same boat. We are all going to go through these emotions. You're going to have grief. There's going to be sadness. There's going to be euphoria. There's going to be all manner of emotions. And what you have to do is this is the same as Edinburgh, but you just have to embrace it and go, right, that's how I'm feeling today.
Yeah.
And hopefully you'll put on some music that you like, or watch a film, or eat something, and maybe that'll make you feel better. But
oh my God,
it's the same. Edinburgh is hard. It's hard, man. Yeah.
It's just dawned on me maybe that comedians, Rich, are uniquely sort of qualified for this lockdown.
Absolutely.
Obviously, you don't have to go out on flyer, but the emotional roller coaster is the same. Of that thing of like, this will pass. Yeah. Tomorrow might be a better day, and we have to rebuild after every gig, after everything we do. We're very used to solitude. We spend a lot of time on our own. We driving to gigs, like 4 hours to get to a gig. You do 20 minutes on stage, and then you're 4 hours back again in the car. You know, that's a lot of time on your own. And if you've had a crap gig as well, you have to tell yourself, no, remember the other gig you did. You remember that gig you did the other day, and you got a standing ovation, you got whatever, So it's, we're very much used to this, I feel. Yeah, funnily enough. So you've pursued your dream of being a stand-up comedian. You're excelling in it, and so many men currently in their 40s to 60s, because of their situations, that they're expected to and need to get a proper job, I don't know, but not that I'm saying,
No, you're right, yeah.
But that I guess they can't have that indulgence to go and pursue their passion. Do you think that maybe plays a part in the fact that so many are struggling emotionally? Absolutely,
it does. Yeah, I was very lucky. I've been very lucky to have in my life very, very supportive people. When I started comedy, I was with a woman called Marilyn, and Marilyn was great. She just went, she was like, you really have it. You have this thing that you could be really good at this. If you stop being a dick, you could be really good at this. And so she was really supportive. My ex-wife was very supportive. Jade's very supportive. I've been very lucky to have people in my life that have pushed me on and have lifted me up. Whereas a lot of men don't have that, or a lot of men, they wanted to be footballers or something like that. And you're like, to be honest, a very tiny percentage of people manage to be footballers or comedians or musicians and that's the difference as well. We're told you follow your dreams, you could be whoever you want, but that's not always the case. I'm very, very lucky. I'm very privileged and very lucky, and I'm not showing off in any way, shape or form. But a lot of people just don't have that, or don't have supportive people. They might be the funniest people in the world, but no one's pushing them. No one's, again, goes back to what you said about permission. No one's giving them permission. And I think a lot of people they squash down other people, partners. Because they're jealous, they're envious. They're like, well, I won't ever achieve anything, so I don't want you to either. Yeah. And there's a lot of that. So there's a lot of bitterness and resentment, and it's a minefield being in a relationship. But again, communication. is key.
More likely, our listeners probably are more likely to be the wives of most of these men that we're perhaps discussing. Would you have any advice for them to go and tell their partners to go and pursue whatever it is that they want to do, maybe in the evenings?
This is the other thing as well. A lot of people in relationships aren't happy that they're in them. And you're like, why are you in this relationship then? Yeah. This again, society says you meet someone, you pledge your allegiance to each other, you go, right, this is it. But I don't think human beings are actually like that fundamentally. I think this might be wrong, I don't know, but I think men and women we're not monogamous. We're supposed to kind of meet this person, be with them for a little while, go on, meet someone else, and I think that it seems to be that's what people should be like, because I know very few people that are actually happily married or happily in a relationship, and so they're not as happy to turn around and say to their partner, why don't you go and try comedy, go and join a band, why don't you go and do this or go and do that? Because
actually saying to somebody, just give up your job and go and do that is quite a big thing, but actually encouraging someone, so what you're doing is very creative, and I think when people have a creative outlet, it may not be their job, but that's good for people, isn't it? For their mental health, to have a creative outlet.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Try and find a way where they can do both. I'm not saying to anybody now that you should turn around and say to your partner, quit your 50 grand a year job and go and do the Chuckle Hut in Hull for no money. Yeah, go and do that. Yeah, no, me and the kids will be fine.
No, but
find a way. Yeah. On a Thursday night, you go, look, I know where you're right. Yeah, on Thursday I'm going to go off and I'm going to try and be a comedian. Or on Friday, that's when I meet up with the lads and we do an open mic session. We get the band and we have a jam session somewhere. I think all people in relationships need something. They need a night where they're doing their thing. And that's what keeps it. That's why Jade and I work really well together, because we've got our own stuff going on.
Yeah.
So we're not really around each other. It's a very, again, privileged position to be in. So I think couples need that. They need to find their own thing.
Yeah,
absolutely. Then when they come back, they go, how was your night? Oh, it was brilliant. I was with Carol and she did this and she did that. And how was your night? Oh, yeah, John did this and he did that. It fires you up. You've got things to talk about that aren't
so the pair of you,
fighting,
I mean, my understanding, obviously not now because we're in this sort of lockdown, but usually you would be both going and doing your own gigs most nights, or going to other people's gigs, presumably.
Most nights.
Yeah, almost every night. So then you come back together. Sometimes you'll be together going to someone else's, presumably. Other times doing your own thing. You come back together, you've got stuff to talk about and encouraging each other and all of that. But can I just ask you then, what is it like at the moment? Because also you've been self-isolating for a couple of weeks, haven't you, the pair of you? And you've not been well, actually, have you?
No, we've all. There's three of us here. There's myself, Jade Adams, my missus, and Paul Sweeney, a fellow comedian. We're all in lockdown together, and we've all had this virus thing. But we've actually been we had an argument just now before we came online to record this. But it all kind of exploded, but then we give ourselves a minute and then we come back and go, I'm really sorry about that. That was unnecessary. And I'm like, I'm sorry too. Yeah. There's a lot of civility because we realise we're all locked in, and the last thing you want is to be caged up with animals shouting at each other.
Yeah, okay.
I think the other thing as well, going back to what we were talking about before, about people going off and finding their own thing. What happened when I was married is that my wife worked, she worked from early, she had to be at work at, 8 o'clock in the morning. She didn't get home till 7 o'clock at night. And then she just wanted to just sit and relax at home, with her husband, and her husband wasn't there. So that caused problems. I was never there. All the times that the weekends when she should be being with her husband and doing stuff with her husband was out talking to strangers, in thousands of miles away, and that causes problems as well. So I know how difficult it is to be married to someone that when you're living at opposite ends of the day, so that causes problems as well. So I get that. I know me turning around going, oh yeah, you should have a night for yourself. Sometimes you're too knackered. You've been at work all day. You don't want to go and do something with somebody else. You just want to sit in front of the telly and chill out with the person you've pledged your allegiance to. And so I get it. There's more grey areas than me just sitting there going, find something. I
guess when you do meet somebody, for the first time you met somebody and you would just walk over broken glass to be with them, wouldn't you? And I guess it's keeping that, like, that they are carving out that time, like, you know, yes, I did have a gig that night, but I know I had one last night and one tomorrow. I'm going to ring fence that night, and you do it too, and keep that space for each other. I guess I don't know. I struggle with it so much, but one thing's for sure, we were struggling with quality time, me and my husband, and we've had a lot of that. Some of it not so quality.
Well, that's the other thing as well. Is are you in a relationship with somebody that you want to spend time with? Do you want to be with that person? Do you want to ring fence a night off and go, let's have some wine, let's go to the cinema, we'll watch a film, we'll do, you know, a date night, for want of a better word, better phrase. And, you know, do you want to do that? That's the key. You know, if you're in a relationship with someone that you want to do that with still, then that's
half the battle, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But if you're looking across at that person and they're looking at you going, she used to wear underwear for me and she used to do this and do that, and now she doesn't do any of that. And she's looking at him going, he makes you do is wear that fucking underwear. You know, and, you know, it's like, you know, you don't want to be together then, do you? Or there's an underlying problem somewhere that you need to talk about before you start organising date nights and things like that. Do you want to be in that relationship? That's the key question.
Yeah. Do other men get in touch with you after listening to the podcast about issues that they're facing? Do you find that you get a lot of interaction from listeners?
I do.
Yeah,
I do. I get messages all the time from men. From a lot of men just saying because of how I sound. I'm a van driver from Kent. Fundamentally, that's it. And so I just find myself in a privileged position of, you know, being able to talk to a lot of people at the same time. And I get messages all the time from guys just going, mate, you don't know me. I just listen to the podcast and I just want to say thank you.
Oh, God.
So it's really, I get women as well. A lot of women message me.
Yeah, sure. Oh, God. I mean, I know, I mean, it's not just a podcast for men. I want to make that really clear. But I think because of as I said at the beginning, the way you sound, and also I think instinctively just listening to you as well, and the way you are, you know, on Twitter and things, people absolutely get that you are, you know, going back to before, you are caring and you're genuine, and you know, so I'm not surprised that people get in touch, and again, it's a safe way of starting to think about, you know, actually, am I all right?
Yeah. That's it.
And also, it's really bloody funny as well.
Well, that's the other thing as well. It's trying to do it.
Really quite rude and funny, and, you know, so.
Well, that's it. Do you know what? I just, you know, that, I swear. Yeah, I say, I talk, I'm a bit rude sometimes, but, you know.
Fabulous. It is fabulous. Yeah. It's a really fabulous listen.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to just say thank you for talking to us today. And I think probably you'll never know how many people you've helped through your podcast, because, you know, for all the people that get in touch and say, I want to say how much it helped me, there will be so many that just actually go away and start thinking, and, you know, that won't ever get in touch.
I hope, that's nice. I think that's the other thing as well. Doing things for other people but not expecting anything back.
Yeah.
I really, that's something I've learned as well. Like,
really?
Well, you know, a lot of us would, like, you're walking up the street and you give someone a couple of quid, like a homeless person, a couple of quid, and in your head you just like this bargaining thing. You go, I've just done that. That means I'm going to have some good karma coming my way. Yeah. And you're like, what are you talking about? Just do the thing, and hopefully that nice thing you did will then make something else nice happen in the world. And so I don't do it expecting reward. No. I just want to know. I just want to do it, and hopefully it makes.
And also, you're getting. Of course, you are getting. You're meeting people and learning from them, like you said. Yeah. So there is. You know, you are getting something, but as part of that, you're helping many other people as well.
Well, that's what it's all about. Let's help each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's fabulous, and it's funny, and it's insightful. So I'd suggest everybody listening goes and listens to Insane in the Membrane, and I'll put a link up as well. So thank you so much, Rich, for
thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
Rich.
Thank you.
Nice to virtually meet you.
Yeah, and you. Yeah. You both have great voices.
Thank you.
Made by darkhorse digital.co.uk. Shooting, live streaming and podcast production.